In this lesson, we're going to take a look at content providers. Content providers are another really cool feature of the Android operating system that makes it kind of a modern operating system when compared to Windows Mobile. Content providers allow us to share data across applications. Now, there are about 4 ways to store data in the Android operating system. There are preference, files, the database, which is SQLite, and network storage. Preferences are used to store user preferences for a single application or across applications in the mobile. They are typically name-value pairs which are accessible to the context. Files can be stored directly on the device, or they can use extended storage media like SD cards. They're by default not accessible to other applications than the one that created it. Then we can also store in a database. Android supports creation of databases based on SQLite. These are again private to the application that created it. And finally, Android supports network storage. So these are the various forms of storing data, and most often they're only accessible to the application that initially created them. But often we would like to be able to share data across applications. That's the idea behind content providers. In order to share data across applications, we have to use content providers. So there are some native providers, and they give you some examples of what's possible and may give you some ideas of how you would like to use custom providers. An alarm clock is a content provider, so that other applications can determine when an alarm might go off. The browser is a content provider, as are call logs, contacts, media store, settings, and the user dictionary. So basically these are all kind of device preferences and tools and data stores that might be interesting to applications. For instance, you certainly could see how an application might be interested in being able to pull from the contact storage. And many applications that are on the device may indeed use contacts. And they also certainly might use media store. So it's really good that there's a single interface to be able to hook to that. If you have any experience in Windows Mobile, you might have had to deal with interfacing with the contacts list. It was extremely difficult with a really old technology, and every version kind of had its own little quirks to it on top of it. So it was not a really flexible concept, and you had to understand exactly how to deal with contacts. In Android, you don't have to worry about, I have to understand the particular interface for a browser or the particular interface for contacts. What I have to understand is a contact provider. And the generic interface for a contact provider is called a content resolver. So this allows us to interface with any of these contact providers by using a single interface type. Now there are a couple of rules, of course, for a content resolver. One, it has a unique URI. Second rule is it's going to support functions. It's going to support functions for querying for data, for updating data, for inserting data, for deleting data, and for getting the type of data. And of course, when you're talking about updates, inserts, and deletes, there are permissions that your application must have to be able to do those update, inserts, or deletes. Even queries require some permissions for some content providers. So you can see the content providers are a really powerful concept, and we will be using them in the future in future lessons with real-life applications.